Being a hero ain't easy. Fighting criminals and protecting civilians as a full-time job needs a lot of dedication and sacrifice. The heroes of today's episode sadly did not have the required patience and sacrifice, making them turn into the people they swore to defeat. Anakin Skywalker, a Jedi Knight in Star Wars, was corrupted by evil and went on to become the greatest Sith Lord after Palpatine. Harley Quinn was once a beloved psychiatrist who helped others fight their inner demons. But then she met Joker, who turned her into a ruthless crook and a dangerous killer. Frank Castle, better known as the Punisher, started off fighting crime and overtaking the criminals who bribed their way out of jail. But his thirst for justice made him turn from a vigilante to a ruthless killer and a merciless executioner. Eddie Brock from Marvel was once just a man and a good friend to Peter Parker. But ever since he symbiotically formed with Venom, he became an anti-hero and later a villain who loved eating heads. Wanda from Marvel was once an Avenger. But in some timelines like the Multiverse of Madness, she was seen to be a very powerful and unstoppable witch who was basically indestructible and did whatever she wanted. The famous Magneto started off as a good friend to Professor X and an important member of the X-Men, but due to greed for power, he later became an arch-enemy of the X-Men and a mutant villain who belonged to the X-Force. Jason Todd was once the Robin to Batman, and the only problem with him was that he wanted to execute people, which was not the Batman way. So he later went solo and became an anti-hero and a vigilante altogether. The iconic Harvey Dent was once a district attorney in Gotham who wanted to be its mayor. He was so sick of watching crooks going unpunished in court, so he took matters in his own hands and became the coin-flipping Two-Face that we know. Ozymandias, also known as Adrian Veidt, was initially a superhero who belonged to the Watchmen, but his obsession with the greater good agenda turned him into a terrifying villain. Warren Worthington III was an angelic hero in the X-Men group who turned to a villain and joined the X-Force. Now, in some alternate realities, Ant-Man went by the name Yellow Jacket, and was an Avenger who later turned rogue and became an enemy to who and what he was. Bruce Banner in most Avenger films was a heroic Avenger. But in Planet Hulk, he was banished from Earth due to his unending rage and becoming a danger to civilians. The beautiful Selina Kyle started as a minor burglar in Gotham, and was also Bruce Wayne's friend. She later turned into a full-blown villain after meeting Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. And speaking of Poison Ivy, she was initially known as Pamela Isley, who was a botanist and loved nature, but later became humanity's greatest threat and an eco-terrorist villain. In Nightfall, Azrael was supposed to be Batman's replacement, but he had his own plans to become an anti-hero with violent tendencies. Pia Morales was just a lovely hero who suddenly turned into a vicious villain, and was also seen turning against her former friends. Vandal Savage was an immortal from the DC Comics universe who wanted to become a conqueror, but his thirst for world domination made him into a villain and an enemy to the Justice League. Edward Morgan went by the name Comedian, and was a former superhero and a member of the Watchmen who later turned into a solo vigilante and an anti-hero. Taith Adam was the most beloved hero in all of Egypt, but he was corrupted with all that power, which made him turn into a villain and an anti-hero, and the enemy of Shazam and the whole of the Justice League. Finally, we get to see Mr. Freeze, who was a scientist and a husband. But after his wife's death, he snapped and became a ferocious villain who wanted to freeze the whole Gotham City. And if you know others who I probably missed, feel free to share your opinions.